Shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And also peace and safety to the ICAM that spread across the four corners of the world, that's pushing out this truth with all diligence and also putting their lives on the line to do so. I'm the brother Karatazaya of Great Millstone, Atlanta, here again with the lesson going into the topic of the warning to our people. All right. Had a fellowship last night, on the elders, from Chicago, made, mention, about, prophecy being at an all-time high. Since he's been in the truth, it kind of stuck with me about, the warning of people, everything that's going on in the world, and everything, the prophecy that's taking place, the pestilence, the famine, coming, the missiles, the sea hip, all of these things are taking place. It's important for us, to continue, in the lot that the Lord called us into. All right. And first and foremost, I'm speaking to myself. First and foremost, just staying diligent, on that, the righteous path, of a man of the Lord. It's important that we continue, with that fire, that we came into the truth with. But nevertheless, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 39. It says, "Wherefore, brethren, covet to prophesy, and forbid not to speak with tongues." The point I wanted to get was to covet to prophesy. All right, because when you look into that word covet, in the Greek is G2206, and it's zelo, and it says to burn with zeal, to be heated, or to boil with envy, hatred, and anger. And a good sense, to be zealous in the pursuit of good. And what's the good? The gospel. The good news, man. All right, so we're supposed to be zealous, and burning with zeal when it comes to prophesying. Okay? Which we've had a perfect example, from our apostles and elders of how, to be. They laid down the foundation, on how we should be, and we're supposed to be walking examples of them, man. Because we're their students, their pupils. But it says to desire earnestly, pursue, So like one of the favorite scriptures that I go to, what is it? So I get Romans 12 and 11. I always get Romans 13 and 11 and Romans 12 and 11. This is Romans 12 and 11. Not slothful in business, fervent in the spirit, serving the Lord. When you go into that word fervent, it means hot. Like the word covet meant burn with zeal. That's why this scripture, popped up in my head, because this is a business. And if you're lacking on your job, showing up late, not, turning your work on time or doing your work, you'll get fired. And that's the same thing with the Lord. He said, in fact, let's get that. Revelation chapter 3 and verse 16. It says, so then, because thou art lukewarm and neither hot, neither cold, matter of fact, verse 15, Revelation 3 and 15. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. You see, so the Lord doesn't deal, with that gray area, man. You're either in this thing or you're not. All right? And if you're in this thing, you're supposed to be burning with the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Covet to prophesy. Same book in Revelation chapter 1 and verse 3. Blessed is the man that readeth and keeping the sayings of the prophecy of this book, roughly paraphrasing. Okay? So that's what the Lord is looking for, man. Not, the guy with the, look back, In fact, let me get that in the book of Luke. It's Luke chapter 9 and verse 62. And Yahweh said unto him, no man having put his hand to the plow, thus a symbol of doing the work, putting your hand on the plow. It says, and looking back is fit for the kingdom of the Most High. Because ultimately you weren't ready to work. You weren't ready to make the necessary sacrifices. You weren't ready, to get these breakdowns and understanding of the scriptures. So you're not fit for the kingdom. You're not fit to be joint heirs with Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. All right? Because that's what the Lord is looking for, man. And like I said earlier in the lesson, I'm speaking to myself first and foremost. There's another thing that the elder mentioned, was you being your hardest critic. You should be your hardest critic, man. All right? Because you know the things that you should know. And if you don't, the reason why, what level you on and what level you should be on. You know that more than anybody. Matter of fact, let me get First Corinthians 13, 2 Corinthians. Second Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 5. Examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Yahweh Mashiach is in you? So we have to know that Yahweh is within us, man. And that's with confidence and boldness. To be able to speak the sayings of the book, man. Because that's what the Lord is looking for. These guys, coming up with all of this, false doctrine, the Gentiles being saved, and, you name it. No, that's not what the Lord is looking for, man. All right? He's not looking for some guy to make some sort of, what's the word I want to say? Historic, revelation that don't nobody, already know. He just wants you to teach, what's already laid. Tells you that in the book of Habakkuk, man. Matter of fact, let me get that. Playing upon the table. is Habakkuk chapter 2. I start at verse 1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say. It says, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. So the Lord is looking for, the plain, keep it simple. Apostle Gabar did a lesson a while back. It's keep it simple, stupid. And that's what, gives you longevity in the truth. It's keeping it simple, but being steady, on fire with it, man. Checking yourself, all of these things, man. Okay? Prophesying, getting the breakdowns, getting the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, of what the Lord is trying to tell us, man. Okay? So I just wanted to briefly touch on that. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I'm going to go ahead and close up by giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And until the next time, Shalom.